on spring 30, 1997, in the curious town of Albany, Missouri. Her family comprised of her dad Michael, a rehearsing doctor, and her mom Melinda, a veterinarian. Daisy was the second of four kids in the Coleman family, encompassed by three more youthful siblings. The year 2009 denoted an essential and sad second in their lives. Daisy, her dad, Michael, and one of her siblings were in transit to a close-by town for a wrestling competition when their process took a portentous turn. Their vehicle struck an unanticipated deterrent, prompting a staggering accident into a gorge. This mishap killed the family's patriarch. Following this misfortune, the Coleman moved to Marville, Missouri, a bigger city offering fresh starts. Melinda wound up in charge of the family wrestling, with the enormous obligation of, without any help, bringing up her three children and little girl. This period was overflowing with provokes an introduction to additional preliminaries that the family would experience in the cold pre-day break. Long stretches of January 8, 2012, Daisy Coleman, a 14-year-old, ended up arousing in the snow loaded yard of her home, the temperature plunging to 0 degrees or lower. Daisy lay there, her hair stuck to the ground, clad just in a shirt and athletic jeans. The principal felt that struck her in that dazing state was an eerie one. I should be dead, immobilized, unfit to speak more loudly or articulate her contemplations. She was overwhelmed in tears. With enormous exertion, Daisy figured out how to drag herself to her home's front entryway, beating on it with each ounce of her leftover strength. It was currently 5 a.m. By some stroke of fortune, her mom Melinda, somewhere down in sleep in her room, observed the odd commotion, at first confusing it with their canines looking for cover from the chilly. Melinda unfolded her robe and advanced toward the entryway, meaning to give the pets access. The sight that met her after opening the entryway was out and out a shock. Her little girl Daisy was lying on the limit. Daisy lay on the cold advances, her cognizance fading with the sharp fragrance of liquor encompassing her. She couldn't eloquent her predicament, communicating her pain just through tears. In a frenzy, her mom Melinda called out for help, gathering her children. They got to move on down the stairs to recover the hypothermic Daisy from the cold and carrying her into the glow of their home. The family's trepidation was unmistakable. At first, they attempted to warm Daisy with covers. After looking into it further anyway, Melinda saw extreme indications of frostbite on her little girl's legs. She immediately filled the bath with water, educating her children to convey Daisy to the restroom and afterward leave her under her consideration. Daisy was still lethargic as Melinda began to strip her noteworthy broad swelling and red imprints on her legs. It was right now that the bleak reality unfolded upon Melinda. Her cherished Daisy had persevered through something horrendous. She tenderly positioned Daisy in the cool water, applying her veterinary information to regulate fitting emergency treatment for the frostbite, steadily raising the water temperature to warm her little girl's body. Fortunately, her endeavors were effective, and Daisy started to recover warmth. However, her discourse stayed confounded and disconnected. Frightened by her girl's condition, Melinda dialed 911, provoking the appearance of the police. The officials showed up and analyzed Daisy's brain was as yet obfuscated by liquor lobby, and she couldn't affirm about the occasions of the earlier night. So the officials needed to pay attention to the narrative of Daisy's companion Paige, who was at the Coleman family home that evening and dozed in the room with Daisy. This is what the companion said on Saturday, January 7th, 2012. Daisy welcomed her dearest companion Paige to her home for a party at night. The young ladies watched thrillers and drank hot beverages, which were furtively taken from the home wine bureau of the family Coleman. Towards sunset, Daisy started messaging with her more established siblings' companion, a 17-year-old kid named Matthew Barnett, who was a famous player in the secondary school soccer group. Matthew, after discovering that Daisy was having a sleepover with her companion, sent the young ladies an instant message that read, "Hello, would you like to have a great time at my play?" See, Daisy and Paige were amped up for the deal and consented to meet Matthew and his companions without the slightest hesitation around 1:00 a.m. Currently, on January 8th, the companion escaped Daisy's home through her window and went around the bend of the house where Matthew and four of his pals met them. The folks took the young ladies to Matthew's home, assisted them with helping into the storm cellar through a window, and requested that they be tranquil so as not to wake Barnett's folks, who were resting higher up. Page uncovered that when she and Daisy got into the storm cellar, Matthew promptly began purchasing Daisy drinks. Her companion sat and watched Daisy, who drank an endless series of beverages ceaselessly. At one point, part of the gang, Nicholas, approached Page, took the young lady by the hand, and drove her to the following void room in the cellar. There the couple had a closeness started by the young fellow. As of now, Matthew and Daisy isolated themselves in one more space, within which was a huge bed. When the entryway opened a few times, Page figured out how to see what was occurring there with Daisy. That young lady was lying on the bed, practically oblivious. She couldn't talk or move. Matthew exploited her defenselessness and connected with Daisy. His companion, Jordan Z, recorded all that was going on his cell phone camera at 2:00 a.m. The young men concluded it was the ideal opportunity for everybody to head home. They drove Page and Daisy back to the Coleman home. Upon appearance, Page was quick to leave the vehicle. Matthew exhorted her that Daisy expected to remain outside for some time to recover in the virus air. The young men guaranteed Page they would remain with Daisy to guarantee her well-being on the road, encouraging Page to get back and rest. Believing their words, Page concurred and left Daisy with them. She entered Daisy's room through the window, immediately fell into bed, and nodded off in a split second. Meanwhile, the young men helped Daisy out of the vehicle. They set her up to hold her back from falling, as she was overpowered by queasiness. The young men took off her shoes, took her sack and cell phone, and kept her hair down as Daisy retched in the wake of guaranteeing she was, as of now, not wiped out. They delicately laid her on the ground close to her house, worried about being seen, and the dangers implied. The young fellows speedily withdrew in their vehicle, abandoning, leaving Daisy in the chilly. Daisy stayed presented to the cold 0 temperature for roughly 3 hours. She was without socks or shoes, clad just in a shirt and sports pants, her wet hair frozen. Answering the circumstance, the police directed an exhaustive examination of the Coleman home and its environmental elements. Inside Daisy's room, they found 5 plastic jugs containing liquor. Outside, they ran over Daisy's pack, cell phone, shoes, and proof of regurgitation. Close by that morning, Daisy was moved to the emergency clinic for a clinical assessment. The specialists noted wounds on her legs and indications of injury in her genital region. A progression of clinical trials were led, uncovering that her blood liquor level was almost twofold as far as possible. In the wake of expenditure a few hours in the emergency clinic, Daisy recovered cognizance, however, had no memory of the earlier night's occasions. She confessed to drinking an unreasonable measure of liquor and recognized taking it from her mom's bureau without authorization. Daisy additionally admitted to escaping to visit the kids' home, yet she was unable to review the subtleties of what happened there by 11:00 a.m. On January 8th, only hours after the episode, cops had found and confined Matthew Barnett, Jordan Z, and Nicholas Gudas. The young fellows were charged and brought to the station for addressing. During the cross-examination, Matthew Barnett recognized having a sexual experience with Daisy Coleman that evening, yet he demanded it was consensual. He described that Daisy and Page were at that point inebriated when he met them. At first, Matthew denied giving any liquor to Daisy. However, as he proceeded with his record irregularities arose in his declaration. Eventually, he surrendered that he offered Daisy a few shots of liquor, proposing it was to liquefy her chilly heart. Matthew made sense of that he had utilized a condom during the experience and discarded it by tossing it out of the vehicle window while they were driving Daisy back to her home. Jordan Zat first would not affirm, yet later conceded that he utilized his companion Nicholas's cell phone to make a video of Matthew kissing Daisy. The video went on around 10 seconds. Jordan figured out how to show the clasp to his companions prior to going nuts and erasing the video. Nicholas, who instigated Daisy's companion Page into closeness, was the one in particular who quickly completely conceded the person was shipped off an adolescent confinement place. Matthew's companion, who drove the gathering to Daisy's home, related that during the ride, Daisy was persistently crying, and Matthew was concerned that her sibling Charlie would be irate on the off chance that he learned about everything. Moreover, it arose that Matthew had visited the Coleman family a couple of days before the episode, where he had feasted with them in a cordial climate by 1 p.m. On January 8th, a hunt was directed in the storm cellar of Matthew Barnett's home. The police held onto bed material, a few void containers, men's clothing, and plastic cups as a feature of their examination. Throughout additional cross-examinations, the representative sheriff seemed to foster a feeling of compassion towards Matthew's record of the occasions. At one point, the official even commented, "It's normal for young ladies to take part in different activities, to look for consideration, and this may very well be one of those cases." He recognized Matthew for his alleged mindfulness in driving the young lady home anyway. The official appeared to neglect the basic detail that Matthew had deserted her external alone in the cool days after the fact. Daisy Coleman made a full recuperation, done confronting any prompt well-being dangers anyway. She was as yet unfit to review any extra. Daisy uncovered irregular correspondence about once a month in these trades. Daisy recommended an eagerness to take part in sexual action with Matthew as a trade-off for liquor. There were likewise instant messages going before January 8th, where both Daisy and Matthew traded commonly unequivocal substance of a sexual sort after Matthew's delivery. It became visible that he was the grandson of Rex Barnett, a noticeable legislator and previous individual from the state regulative gathering, known for his contribution in the Board of Trustees on criminal regulation and public well-being. Rex Barnett had laid out associations with numerous examiners and cops across Missouri. Thusly, Matthew and Jordan were permitted to continue their ordinary lives. In the interim, Daisy Coleman trusted that the debate encompassing her horrendous trial would ultimately die down. She continued her examinations, yet, rather than sympathy and backing from her friends, she experienced antagonism and criticism. The larger part sided with Matthew, marking Daisy as underhanded and wanton. This unexpected alienation drove Daisy to become isolated, liking the isolation of her home over friendly communications. The young lady, who once effectively partook in local area exercises, sports, and moving, turned into a sad remnant of her previous self in any event, leaving the school's cheerleading crew. All the while, her mom Melinda confronted a flood of unknown dangers at both home and her work environment. The circumstance heightened to where M was constrained to leave the veterinary center, where she had been utilized for a long time. Stood up to, with this unwavering aggression, the Coleman family settled on the hard decision to move in the spring of 2013. Unfortunately, their empty house in Ville, which was recorded available to be purchased, strangely torched. The reason for the fire stayed dubious by the police, filling hypotheses that it was a demonstration of counter, potentially connected to Matthew Barnett's dad. Under particular conditions, in a little while, the place of Daisy's companion, Paige, likewise capitulated to a fire. By then, Daisy and Paige had stopped correspondence, and Paige, too, ended up excluded at school, tormented by tenacious bad dreams. In the end, Daisy's difficulty acquired public media consideration, impacting others, the nation, over who had persevered through comparative encounters. This recently discovered help empowered Daisy to return the body of evidence against Matthew Barnett, her essential bad guy. At the resulting preliminary, Matthew was just viewed as at fault for allowing Daisy to remain uncovered to the frigid temperatures. He got a sentence of 2 years probation and was requested to pay $1,800 in compensation to the Coleman family. No further charges were sought after against the other people engaged with the episode. Daisy Coleman kept on confronting life's difficulties, getting both help and dangers from unknown web-based sources. She wrestled with the cruel truth of the unreasonable treatment and analysis coordinated at her in 2016 when Daisy was 19 and going to school. A Netflix narrative named Audrey and Daisy was delivered. This film dove into the issues of savagery, harassing, and digital tormenting. Alongside their staggering results, Daisy highlighted unmistakably in the narrative, valiantly sharing her own encounters. The film likewise featured the narrative of another young lady Audrey Pott from California, whose story finished a much more prominent misfortune in a terrible lined up with Daisy Coleman's involvement, with 2012 Audrey Pott confronted a comparative difficulty yet, with a significantly more tragic result. Photographs of Audrey flowed quickly web-based, arriving at her companions, as well as her foes in her last online entertainment post. Audrey communicated her significant hopelessness. My life is obliterated. The entire school realizes I can never dispose of this. Notoriety, everybody knows how terrible I am. I believe that everything should end only 9 days after this post. Audrey, overwhelmed by the determined embarrassment and unfit to adapt to the size of her enduring, unfortunately ended her own life a half-year following Audrey's sad passing. Her folks effectively started legal procedures. The capable people, 3 young men, got sentences of 30 to 45 days for their contribution in the episode. Hence, their families remunerated Audrey's folks with roughly $1 million for profound harms. Moving concentration back to Daisy Coleman in 2018, she decided to set out on a new beginning by migrating to Colorado. There, she tracked down work at a tattoo parlor and was taken part in another film venture, which chronicled her excursion towards mending. Unfortunately, in June 2018, Daisy confronted another lamentable experience when her mom Melinda and sibling Tristan were engaged with an auto collision in transit to visit Daisy from their old neighborhood. Unfortunately, her 19-year-old sibling, Tristan, lost his life in the mishap, the subtleties of which remain covered in secret. Following the staggering loss of her sibling, Daisy Coleman went to virtual entertainment to share her internal conflict. In a genuine post, she conceded that, as time passes, it turned out to be progressively difficult to contain her inward evil spirits, create a grin, and keep up with the exterior that everything was well. Directly following her sibling's demise, Daisy turned into a prime supporter of a philanthropic association devoted to helping survivors of savagery. She proceeded to transparently examine her own horrendous EXP encounters while offering backing to others confronting comparable afflictions. Daisy frequently utilized her post to communicate the trouble she confronted dealing with her profound pain, wrestling with fits of anxiety, and being spooky by persevering terrible memories. In the late spring of 23-year-old Daisy Coleman started let companions know that she was being trailed by an obscure man, sending her aggressive statements. She detailed this to the police, saying the individual had been following her since December 2019 and arguing for help. However, her requests were overlooked. On Tuesday, August 4th, 2020, Daisy composed on Twitter about her apprehension about going out incapable to walk her canine or go to work. Because of her dread, she composed that she had quit eating and dozing hours after the fact. Daisy posted on Facebook that an obscure man had moved toward her home and thumped on the entryway. Scared, she thought he could have taken her keys and could break into her home. Daisy likewise composed that this man had taken her photographs and made a profile on a site offering closeness for cash under her personality. Subsequent to perusing her little girl's social media posts, Daisy's mom Melinda called the Colorado police for a government assistance check at 4:00 p.m. Officials showed up at her home and she let them in. They remained for about an hour conversing with her about the following. The officials saw the same old thing in Daisy's way of behaving. However, soon after they left, Daisy video called her beau, took out a weapon, pointed it at herself, and pulled the trigger. The kid's sweetheart at first didn't have the foggiest idea about what occurred. As the call dropped, Daisy quit answering calls, and the beau called 911 when police got back to Daisy Coleman's home at 8:00 p.m. They found her dead. Daisy's mom, Melinda, declared her girl's demise by distributing a post via virtual entertainment. She composed, "She was my dearest companion and a magnificent girl. How I want to have taken her agony onto myself. She never recuperated from how those little fellows treated her back in school, and it's simply not fair. My little girl is gone from us." The mother admitted that she had battled for Daisy and her psychological well-being for a long time. She accepted that she had done everything feasible for her cherished girl. The mother conceded that her girl had for sure been sought after by a stalker. Lately, likewise, Daisy had, as of late, figured out that she could always be unable to have youngsters. After Daisy's passing, the tattoo parlor where she worked was looted. The criminal took a collection with Daisy's selective drawings and her tattoo machine 4 months after the fact. In December 2020, 58-year-old Melinda Coleman composed one more contacting post via online entertainment. Committed to her dearest girl, subsequently the lady took a weapon and did exactly the same thing as her girl Daisy had done in the Coleman family. Just 2 children stayed, the more established Charlie and the more youthful Logan. Daisy's beneficent association coordinated a raising money work to help the young men. It is realized that the life and vocation of Matthew Barnett are working out in a good way and effectively. After the passings of Daisy and her mom Melinda, the man communicated his sympathies for what has been going on with the Coleman family.